When most people think of New York, they think of a city. The Hudson River. Gorges of glass. Canyons of concrete. But others think of the Adirondack Mountains, the place where the Empire State gets its water. America's largest state park with picturesque lakes and gentle streams. Some see an Olympic caliber winter, while for others, the spring runoff means world-class kayaking. But for a select few, nothing is so revered as the Opalescent drainage, the highest source of the Hudson. Its steepest section remains shrouded in mystery and myth, the state's steepest mile of Whitewater, which I'm keen to paddle, including the spectacular Hanging Spear Falls. But I'm not from New York. I'm a South African living in Asheville, North Carolina, where I run my production company and plan future trips. Meet Pat Keller, another Asheville local and one of the world's best kayakers. Together we're planning our trip to the Opalescent Gorge to add our piece to the puzzle.
So yeah, to me, kayaking's the ultimate form of self-expression. But I got to put in my work first, but then pay, and then I can go play.
Pat has a day job and paddles in his spare time. Last year, he joined me on a return to Iceland where we first hatched our plan to run the Opalescent Gorge.
I can't think of a better way to celebrate this existence than to be in pursuit of these types of adventures.
His permanently positive attitude and incredible paddling skills make Pat the perfect partner on this project.
At this point in my life, I work for a living, and this is what I work for. I knew this would be the ultimate kind of vacation that the days grinding through were leading up to.
Although much closer to home than Iceland, the Opalescent is well guarded by the tallest mountains in New York. So we connect with Lake Placid local Matt Young.
First person I ever heard talk about the Opalescent was a gentleman named Dennis Squires, and he's no longer with us. And I think when we finally had a successful run in 2012, I think it was a really cool way to honor him and his legacy.
Matt's an Opalescent veteran, but he can't join us on this trip. So we've asked him to help us determine the best approach for our mission.
I would venture to say that you will probably be the first people to ever walk from that trailhead with kayaks on your back.
I'm not sure that's something we should be proud of.
Dennis and a handful of other kayakers have traditionally started hiking upstream from the takeout in the south and put in below Hanging Spear Falls to run the lower gorge. But we're approaching from the north through Avalanche Pass, paddling across the lake chain and hiking up the upper Opalescent in search of Whitewater towards Lake Tear of the Clouds, the highest source of the Hudson. We'll then kayak back downstream towards our ultimate goal, the exit to the floodlands and the steep gorge above Hanging Spear Falls. To scout our route, I flew into the pass with my powered paraglider.
I think the biggest challenge with Opalescent and the high peaks in general is it's in a large protected wilderness area. There's no roads, so you're having to walk all the way in, and the Opalescent lies dead center in the deepest part of the wilderness.
During my flight, I've noticed that we now have the perfect snowpack, which will provide the optimal flow.
Feldspar Brook and then eventually Lake Tear to Clouds.
Conveniently, the Ausable River behind us is a sister river to the Opalescent. It flows north from the watershed at Avalanche Pass, and we've closely monitored these flows as weather events have dumped rain on snow, causing floods. Too much water is a deal breaker. It becomes impossible for us to stop before unrunnable rapids. Flows and weather are fickle, so we'll only get one shot. It's go time.
This is when you find all the flaws in your system.
That's right, at least in the next 30 minutes.
We've waited for a clear weather window with dropping water levels. Our boats weigh 80 to 90 pounds loaded with everything we need for the next 3 days. And we'll hike 8 miles up and over the watershed divide before we can begin to paddle.
How you doing, Dipad man?
Good. Tell you what, day out here is better than even the best day in the office.
The levels look good comparing the Ausable here to the river up and over the mountains that we're going to go check out, and it's just way cool how sometimes when you're in the right path, trips just kind of link up and you end up where you wanted to be.
Well, there's a whole lot less ice than I saw from the air.
Yeah, it looks like we can just paddle right across.
We get to start paddling, but we've only just crossed the divide, so the creek between the lakes is still too small to paddle. We'll keep portaging.
So paddling through Lake Holden was where we passed in between the two highest peaks in New York. And as we were coming to the end of it, the drainage from Mount Marcy, that is the actual source of the Hudson, which is Lake Tear the Clouds, comes in right to the end of Lake Holden. And we can see immediately there's water coming in, more water than we expected. And the stoke was high to just hop on the next trail and carry on up.
Looks like this is just gonna be chock full of good stuff. So we'll probably just work our way up and then put it all together on the way back down.
The upper Opalescent is simply a bonus for us to warm up on before our main goal downstream. So we'll follow it upstream as far as we can with the daylight we have left.
Yeah, that's the wall. Oh!
Well, that one doesn't go.
Rumors we had heard of an unrunnable 60-foot drop were confirmed about a mile up the trail. We'll start paddling from here. With the end of our weather window fast approaching, we head downstream to focus on the Hanging Spear Gorge. We'll leave further exploration upstream to the next group of kayakers.
We are just amazed by the bedrock and the granite, and I was just giggling because slide after slide after slide, fun little twisty slot moves, and there's definitely a lot of opportunities for people that come next to carry on up and push a little further up toward the source of the Hudson. And if we were on a little bit longer of a mission, we'd probably do so, but our focus is downstream from here.
All that remains today is a float across the floodlands to a state-built lean-to where we'll spend the night.
This is what it's all about.
We start our day slow and enjoy the remote location that we've worked so hard to get to.
Man, it sure is warming up there. Oh, it's nice.
Today is the day that we'll attempt the steepest section of Whitewater in New York State. Dropping at over 950 feet per mile, it demands self-sufficiency and that we move methodically, carefully planning how we'll run rapids that are navigable and portage those that are not. It's the unrunnable drops that make a section dangerous, so it'll take us the entire day to cover the half mile to Hanging Spear.
So for me, the perfect rapid or the perfect move has many stages. It's not just one bang or one boof, but it's a puzzle where the pieces fit together really closely and you got to be really on it. Looking at pictures of Hanging Spear, it was obvious that it's not just one drop, it's not just one rapid. It's a section of very steep whitewater that you can see in the background if you look at Hanging Spear Falls.
Despite a great risk, Pat decides to run a difficult drop just above a deadly waterfall.
well, it's definitely not a good idea, but I know I can make it. It's got lines that are very similar to ones I've done, and I've got it in my head, but I know what's downstream, and I know how quickly that can all go wrong.
He's had a perfect line, but the razor-thin margin for error makes it a portage for me. We delve deeper into the gorge, fully committing ourselves to completing our descent at river level. But we must find creative ways of getting around 2 unrunnable drops.
If we can't get out of there, we can sneak through that slot, get through that slot and retain.
Getting to the bottom, there was one spot where I was kind of jumping over a chasm, and I felt a gust of cool wind coming up from this little cave. And I kind of thought about it for a second, oh, that's cool.
Go down the hole.
As we're contemplating rappelling the last piece of our portage, Pat's found an easier way. We've taken most of the afternoon, and with the heat of the day, snow has been melting.
Made it!
The river is on the rise, flowing faster and rising by the hour. The final rapids above Hanging Spear become more difficult with every minute.
It just pushes. So we wanted low flow in the gorge and then a little bit higher flow at Hanging Spear, because with waterfalls you want a little more aeration, and the more you turn on the spigot, if you will, the bigger the boils are at the bottom, which means the softer impact for us.
So we've made it safely through the upper gorge and arrived at the lip of Hanging Spear with a perfect flow.
As I'm approaching a waterfall, my main goal is to land between 80 and 90 degrees. That's about perfect. And then once you're free falling, you can make little adjustments, but it's kind of, you gotta be smooth. You just gotta hang on through that initial impact. And if you have landed at about 80 to 90 degrees, all is well. You roll up at the bottom and everybody's stoked and you're stoked.
With the benefit of watching Pat make a crucial correction on the lip, it's my turn. I've had a good line, but something is wrong.
Where I was sitting, I was really worried about, he came out and said shoulder, shoulder. So I grabbed him, and I was suddenly really scared about how we were going to get him over to the other side.
I've injured my shoulder, but it's better to have happened here after accomplishing our goal than further upstream. I won't get to paddle the lower gorge this time, but it's a small price to pay for our safe passage through the sections we've navigated. Indeed, we haven't changed the world with what we've done, but we can be proud to add our chapter to the story of those who have explored the headwaters of the Hudson before us, and those who will follow. And for those living along the Hudson, the next time you look at the river, perhaps you'll take a moment to consider where that water came from, and the adventure that lies upstream.
Pat, weren't you wearing a tie?
No.